Hi and welcome to the walk-in studio. I just walked in from the library. I got a key in the counter and I'm almost ready to record a video. So when you enter the room, automatically the light will turn on as you see right now. And the first thing you need to pull up from your pocket is your DTU access card, because it will give you access to the system and also devise a place to move your recordings you do in this studio. So I'll take my access card from my bag, and then on this control panel I simply place it over the card reader. So as I do that, you should see green if you accept it. And then, because I've been here a few times, I have some previous projects already, but you should probably see a screen which says new project all over the place. So you select a new project, and as you do that, you can now decide, do I want to make a presentation or a screen recording, or using the Wacom digitizer, a top view camera, green screen, or a special mode called 4 sources. So the most typical choice would be presentation. And that gives us now a picture from a front camera right over there, and we have a screen as the backdrop. So one of the first things that I noticed here, because this is actually pretty fine with me, I could now go and decide if I want to use the curtain behind me. Probably I want to have a white background, so I'll just remove the curtain now. And because you're a nice person, you clean up after yourself, making sure the curtain is put into proper position, like that. Okay, then I want to bring down the screen a little bit. So on the side, behind the screen, there are buttons that will bring the screen down to approximately this level, which should be fine for my height. And in the other end of the room, you can see the front camera was moving down as well, along with the screen. But you can adjust it further by pressing the up and down button. This is called a teleprompter, and that will show me the recording I'm making, or I can put something else up there, like my slides if I want to follow them, or have a manuscript or something. So probably you want to connect your computer. You can either put it on the tabletop right here, or you can remove this surface. And underneath you find a small platform where you might be able to fit in your computer. We also have a Wacom digitizer over here, which is a device that allows you to use a pen, and you can draw on the Wacom digitizer and have this recorded and shown on the screen behind you. You also find buttons for taking the table up or taking the table down. And if you want to use this microphone, you can turn it on and off on this button. A very important feature is the touchscreen interface, which we already saw when I logged in with my DTU access card. And this is used for all the settings we want to do in this room, including starting and stopping recording. So I don't want to use the Wacom digitizer, so I turn it off if it was already on. And I'll now pull my computer up from my bag. Behind the Wacom digitizer, you find various cable types. We have here Mini DisplayPort 1, which is useful for a Mac computer. So I can attach this. So now my computer is attached to the system. I need to go to the input source menu. I select Mini DisplayPort number 1, which is the top option. And then the system changes to computer. And in a moment, I'll see the screen from my computer as the recording source. I can now change between camera 1, which is my front camera, and my computer. When I'm in the computer mode, I can choose picture-in-picture mode. I can choose it in a 16:9 or a 4:3 mode. And using these buttons here, I'm able to zoom in and adjust the camera a little bit. If I go to the front camera, you can see I also have these options of zooming in and adjusting the position. I would like the background behind me to be just plain white. So in this menu, I can also choose some background color options. This is done by pressing the lighting option, and it could be any color if I like, but I like to have a white background, so I turn on light white. In the input source menu, I can also decide what goes on the screen behind me or what is shown on the teleprompter monitor in front of me. Another option in this menu is to select what my camera 2 should be. And I have the option of a left and right camera and the top camera. The top camera is good for close-ups from above. And I can zoom in, I can track the camera forward. And then I can now change between camera 1, which is my front camera, camera 2, my top camera, and my computer source. So I'm almost ready to record now, but it's very important that you put the microphone on. So in the back of the room we have microphone transmitters sitting in a charger. You take them from there, you return them to there. And when you have audio, you'll see these meters are blinking. This is very important. There's another option, and that is to use the tabletop microphone, which is convenient in the sense that it's just right there and you don't need to wear anything. So you turn this on and off by pressing this button, and you'll see the LED changing from red to green. And you also see that now we have audio levels coming from this microphone. So I'm ready to record now, and it's so easy as to just press this button, record. Okay, so I press record, and in a moment you'll see that it turns red. There you go. I have a red confirmation over here, and if I go to the teleprompter in the back of the room, you can even see that I have red light share confirming that I'm recording, and I see my audio levels are also shown, so I know I have audio. And here you see, in this case, I see my screen from my computer, so I can see my slides, and you also have a counter so you can keep track of how long you have been talking. Whenever you're done recording, you just press the record button again and the recording will stop. And now, within a minute or so, this recording will be moved to a web server and you can access it by a link you'll receive in your email box. We currently advise people to make a backup recording, and in the back of the room you have two options. You can either put a USB key in this slot and it will automatically, simultaneously make a recording and put it on your USB stick. You can also rent a hard drive at the library counter and put it into these recording decks, and you will have a really high quality professional recording saved on that hard drive, again as a backup or as a production file if you need to do further editing. Okay. One of the most awesome features of the walk-in studio is that when you exit the studio again after recording, like what I do now, I log out here, then the next time you come back and you log in, the walk-in studio remembers how it was last time. So let's see if we can have the room restore the settings I just made a moment ago. So I use my access card to identify myself. It's now green, so it knows who I am. And you'll see over here in the project view, you can see my thumbnail from my last recording. So as I press this one, just watch and see what happens. So now you see that the screen is moving down to the position it had just before. All the light is restored to the values it had before. The camera is moving down to the position it had before. So I'll see my computer on the screen, and on the teleprompter monitor you will also see a representation of your previous recording and your current recording, so you can match that everything from your previous recording in this series is looking the same. In this way you can make nicely consistent videos even though you use the room on different days and other people have been here between. So this is the walk-in studio. There are two fundamentally different background types you can choose in the walk-in studio. Either you have the screen behind you, or you cover the screen with a curtain or paper roll. There are three colors of curtains. We have black, gray, or red. For the background behind the screen, if you don't use a curtain, you have white. Otherwise, you take the curtain. In the same way, you can choose a gray or a red background. If you don't want to use the screen in the room, you can cover the screen with a curtain or a paper roll. To use the paper roll, you go to the lighting menu, and here you press this button. To light up any background, you can choose different colors of lighting. For instance, now we choose red, and now red light is thrown on the background. You can also choose white. You can turn off the light altogether. You can also create a mix of two colors. So for instance, if I choose red now, I can mix red with a yellow on the other side. You can also have a random color selected if you like, or you can dim the color by repeated presses on this button. When you're using the paper roll as a background, you can create an easy green screen effect by choosing the green background color. To create a completely white background, you just select the white lighting and you'll have a flushed out white background behind you. In the lighting menu, you can select background colors which are made by colored light in the room. You can also adjust the paper roll, but all these settings over here allow you to further change the lighting value of the different lamps you find in the walk-in studio. In most cases, you don't need to do this, but if for some reason you need this, you can turn on and off or up and down the lamps by using these buttons. When you're using the screen in the studio, it's very important to adjust the screen height to your height. And in this case, the screen is a little bit too high for me. One rule of thumb is that your shoulders should be in the middle of the screen. You can adjust it on the side. You adjust the screen height on the back of the screen by pushing the buttons up or down. One way to select the source on the screen is by using this graphical button and press until you see the right type of source. So for instance, in this case, you will have a green background on the screen. Another way to choose the source of the screen is using this button on the touch panel. And here you have a whole column of sources. So you can select your computer, you can select a secondary camera, you can choose color options, or you can choose a gradient. So let's try a gradient, and as I press here, you will see that the screen cycles which gradient it shows. You can also cycle between some predefined backgrounds, like here. And you can even include a custom background. So a custom background is a background you define by saving a custom background with this button. So we'll do that in a moment. Camera 2 means you will have any of these cameras selected for the screen. So let's choose the top camera, and you now see on the screen behind us, you see the top camera is being used, which is nice for close-ups. Saving a custom background will take a snapshot of the current recorded image and save that as a background you can put on the screen. The final and probably the most popular way of using the screen is to show your laptop image on it. So in this case, I've connected my laptop with the HDMI cable, and in the input source menu, I select computer for the screen, and I select HDMI as the computer source. There are a number of different options for attaching your computer in the walk-in studio. You can use traditional VGA, you can also have HDMI, or you can use mini DisplayPort. In this case, you find an HDMI cable in the room on the floor, which you can use if HDMI is your preferred way to connect. A special option for computer choice is the Wacom. And as I press this one, the Wacom digitizer we see right here will be selected as a source. We can turn on the digitizer. On the back of the screen there's a pen. You can use the pen to discard all the errors. And then you can choose a pen and you can write on the screen. To make sure that anything selected as the computer source is also shown on the screen behind you, you go to the screen section in the input source menu and you choose computer. When you're using your computer as an input source for your recorded signal, it can be useful to include yourself in the picture on the side. So this is called picture-in-picture, and you can either have your computer screen slided to the side, like going from the center, and then pushed a little bit to the side while you can see yourself here And you can adjust the camera a little bit to zoom in on you. You can also choose a 16:9 picture-in-picture type where the picture-in-picture is in the corner instead. And if you want to adjust the size of this, you go to the settings menu right here. And there you can choose in which corner the picture-in-picture should be and how large it is. So let's say we put it up here, and then we can also make it even smaller like that. The option called 720p50 1:1 is a kind of advanced option that will give you a 1:1 representation of all your pixels in case your laptop outputs 720p50. The idea of this mode is if you make a screencast recording in the walk-in studio, you can avoid having scaling of your video input. To use the Wacom digitizer in the walk-in studio, you first remove the tabletop of the table. Then you power on the Wacom digitizer by pressing the power button, and eventually the Wacom digitizer is almost ready to be used. There are two devices to operate the Wacom digitizer, actually three. There's a mouse, there's a pen sitting on the back of the Wacom digitizer, and finally there's the keyboard for the digitizer. So, with the pen, you can do anything you can with the mouse, but in addition, you can draw on the Wacom digitizer. When you're using the Wacom digitizer or the table without any tabletop, it's very nice to have this microphone activated, so you don't necessarily have to wear a microphone. This is done by turning it on and off on the panel right here. So now it's off, and you see there's no indication on the audio meters. As you turn it on and make some noise, you'll see a reflection of that on the audio meters. With the mouse, it's easier to import and export documents. And here in this interface, you can see all your drawings. And in the bottom of the screen, you can see an import and an export function. The import function allows you to take in PowerPoint and PDF files, while the export function will allow you to export to PDF so your annotated slides can be distributed. When using the Wacom digitizer, you can safely rest your hand on the plate because it's not sensitive to the touch of a finger. It's only the pen that will make any reaction on the Wacom digitizer. So it's very important that you adjust the table height. So you have buttons over here. Pressing the up button will raise the table. And guess what the down button does? So you get it into a comfortable position where you can rest your hand and you can perform any handwriting teaching that you want. To get your files in and out of the Wacom digitizer, you bring a USB key and you put it here. And then I suggest you use your mouse to go to the Documents section. And over here you can export to PDF. And then you'll see here my USB key. The most fundamental features of the Wacom digitizer is using the pen, the eraser, the highlighter, and the laser pointer. So the pen obviously allows you to draw. The eraser allows you to erase what you drew. You can use the highlighter to highlight anything on a slide or which you have drawn. And the laser pointer is really neat to point out stuff. So if you have a slideshow and you want to point out something, you get a red transparent dot marking it up. When you're using the pen function, you can select the line thickness and a line color in the bottom of the screen to draw your lines. If the Wacom picture is not already on the screen behind you or on the signal you want to record, you need to go to the input menu of the touch panel. So you go to Input Sources, you select the Wacom digitizer as your computer, and you can now see the Wacom digitizer signal will be shown whenever you select computer on the panel here. It may also pop up on the screen already, but if it doesn't, you need to make sure that computer is selected as the source for the screen behind you. The teleprompter is the screen sitting just above the front camera in the room. So with the teleprompter, you could show your own slides, so it's easier to speak to the camera. If you're looking in the direction of the teleprompter, you'll also be looking into the camera. So it has many nice functions. And I think in most installations, you'll see the picture you're recording on the teleprompter. But this you can select using the button here on this panel. First of all, you can bring the front camera down a little bit by holding the down button. The source on the teleprompter is selected by this button, and as you press it, you cycle through various options, so like HDMI to, VGA to, people, which are smiley faces, and so forth. The three source types, VGA to, Mini DisplayPort 2 and HDMI 2, are located on a cable close to the teleprompter, so you could have a computer in the back of the room showing a manuscript on the screen, which you can follow and speak to. An alternative way to select the teleprompter source is using the touch panel from the input menu, where you have all the options right here. So if we select result, you'll see the result on the teleprompter. If I select computer, you'll see the computer source on the teleprompter. If you select Mini DisplayPort, you'll see the connected computer to Mini DisplayPort 2, likewise for HDMI and VGA 2. If you choose graphics, you'll see various types of graphics, like people or a smiley, if you like to talk to a smiley. You can also have the front camera shown on the teleprompter, or you can show what the last session looks like. And last session is a way where you can bring up a thumbnail from your last recording with this preset to compare it with your current recording to see what is the same or different. You can also blank the teleprompter. And one of the most important features, let's just put on the result, is that as you press the counter button, you can have different types of counters shown when you record. And if you press the size button, you'll see that the size of the teleprompter can be made larger. As you press, it cycles through 3 different types of sizes. The most important thing on video is really audio. People need to be able to hear what you say, and if you go into the walk-in studio without using a microphone, you'll get a video with no audio at all. So there are 2 options, and the one and most important option is to use a shared microphone. So there are 2 transmitters located in the back of the room. They are sitting in a charging station, and as you enter the room, you should see that both of them are green, meaning they are fully charged. When you leave the room, you put them back into these holders so they charge for the next guy using the room. You just pull it up from the charger, you take the microphone and you place it on your shirt close to your neck, approximately like here. Make sure no clothes will interfere with the microphone, okay? Then you open the lid of the transmitter and press and hold the on-off button until you see the display light come up. You make sure that it doesn't say mute, and that's the button on top. So if it says mute, it means no audio is coming from the transceiver here to the receiver. You turn off mute, okay? And then you're ready to go. To make sure you have a proper audio signal coming from your microphone to the recording system, you need to watch these audio meters, okay? And they have to light up during your whole recording. They should not reach the red level. Now I'm talking very loudly into the microphone, but they should, it's okay if they reach the yellow level, that's fine. Yeah. The second way to have audio on your video is using the table microphone, which is a very convenient option if you are not using the tabletop, but having your laptop here or using the Wacom digitizer. The tabletop microphone is enabled when you see a green light here, and you turn it on and off by pressing this button. So now as I turned it off, you'll see there are no audio levels anymore, but when I turn it on, you'll see audio levels are coming up, and as I poke the microphone, you'll see the audio levels are flashing. You can also monitor the audio you're recording by using the headphones hanging over here, which are connected to a headphone amplifier. You need to make sure that you turn up the volume sufficiently. It is possible to adjust the microphone volume, but by default it should be pretty fine. But this is done by the red panel you see right here. So you can see here the microphone audio is at 77%, and you can turn it up and down with this knob. And if you press it, it's muted, and now it's not muted anymore. Likewise, you can adjust the computer audio, muted or not, by using the button next to. Audio from your computer can either be delivered by the digital types, HDMI or mini DisplayPort, or if you are using VGA, there's a jack plug with the VGA plug which you attach to your computer. Sometimes people, if they do not attach this, they will hear a hum in the background from the unattached cable. So either you need to attach this cable to avoid it, or you need to mute the audio on the button on this panel. In the walk-in studio there are 4 different cameras. The most important camera is the front camera seen right here. This is what will normally film you, but we also have a camera in the left side and likewise on the right side, which you can activate to make close-up shots or whatever you like. There's also a camera in the ceiling. Camera 1 is always the front camera, while camera 2 can be 3 different things. Which camera is camera 2 is something you select in the input menu. So you can say camera 2 is the top camera, and then you'll see the top camera above us is activated. You can zoom in, you can rotate the camera, you can even track it forth and back on the slider to find the perfect position for zooming in on some detail on the table. If you select the left or the right camera, like here, you'll see now we have the left camera, and likewise you can zoom in and move the position of the camera around. So this is how you use cameras in the walk-in studio. To change between camera 1 and 2, you simply press the buttons on the touchscreen like this, and you can do that while you are recording in your production. The walk-in studio allows you to record, to stream, and to take snapshots. And this is all done from this panel. So you see the record button when you're logged in. If you press it, it becomes red because it starts recording. When it's recording, you see the media production lamp recording light up red, and you'll also see the tally lights close to the teleprompter monitor light up red. If you have counter enabled for the teleprompter, you'll see the count on the screen. If you have somebody helping you in the walk-in studio, you can allow him or her to start recording from the red panel in the rack instead. So as I press this button, it stops recording. Recordings made in the walk-in studio will automatically be transferred to an online server, and you will receive an email with a link to your recording. But you can also go to the library counter and borrow a hard drive, which you can put in here, in which case the disc recorders will start recording on the hard drive when you press the record button. And you can even attach a USB key right here. When you do that, you'll see this light come on green. And when it's green, it means it's ready to accept the recording. So if you press the record button, you'll see this turn into red, meaning that we are now recording onto the USB drive until we stop the recording again, and it turns green, and now you can remove the USB drive. Now I have logged in on podcast llab.dtu.dk, where your media inbox will contain the recordings you made in the walk-in studio. So if you go to this tab, you can see that a few minutes ago I made a few recordings in the walk-in studio. As I press this button, I'll see the video previewed here, and I can return to the previous screen, press the download button to download the video to my own computer. Notice that videos expire in 9 days, so you need to download the videos or they will be deleted in about 9 days. Sometimes you might bring a friend to help you in the walk-in studio, and he can do all the changing of cameras and adjusting and start and stop recording from a panel in the back of the room. And this is the panel. First, let me just quickly mention that we have 2 external input sources on the system, an SDI and an HDMI input source. We also have an SDI out source, and these are all 720p 50. This is for the more advanced users, I admit, but when we turn our eyes to the panel up here, you need to know about their existence, because the buttons on this panel allows you to change between the front camera, the left camera, the right camera, the top camera, the computer source which are currently selected, and you can also select external source number 1 and 2. So therefore, that is the sources you connected to the plugs down here. The picture-in-picture button allows you to disable picture-in-picture, enable picture-in-picture, and as you hold the button, you can change the type of picture-in-picture from the 16:9 to the 4:3 type. These two buttons are used to mute or adjust audio coming from the computer and from the microphone. And finally, in case you have a 4-op setup, you can use this one to change which input sources you are selecting for a 4-op configuration. If you want to turn off the result screen in the rec panel, you can press this button and you turn off the screen. So on this panel you find a button called 4-op. The 4-op button is used to select the 4 different types of sources that you can use in a 4-op configuration. I'll show in a moment. But if that mode is not enabled, which is the case right now, the 4-op button is used to select which input sources are recorded on the recording decks. And by default, the upper deck will record the result signal, which is what you see on the screen, on the touch screen. But as you press this one, for instance, I can now select which input source you see right here by pressing these buttons, as you can see. And if I wait until it ends, then this is now selected as my recording source. If I press repeatedly, you can now see the different 4-op source fields. And if we take this one, for instance, you can now see I'm changing source number 2, a source for recorder deck number 2, and likewise if I go here, I now select it for recording deck number 3. If I go here, it's for recording deck number 4. What I just showed you about the 4-op features allows you to make a recording in the walk-in studio where you have the complete composition recorded, let's say on the and put on the internet by the usual means, but you can still put in hard drives in these recording decks and have each individual camera recorded, so you could walk into a post-production suite and then re-edit your video. So that's the reason why these recording decks can be configured using the 4-op feature to assign various input sources to the decks if you want that kind of advanced treatment after your recording here. So now, if you go to settings, I want to show another way to use 4-op, and if you go to production mode, you can see that selecting between these 6 different options will give you some preset configuration for using presentation, screen recordings, Wacom digitizer, green screen, etc. But this one is special because if you press this one, you'll see you get a 1, 2, 3, 4 source configuration, and this is what you record. So let's say that you stuff people into this room for making a user group study and you want to have 4 different camera angles recorded in a configuration like this. This is when you choose that special mode. And on this monitor you now see the 4-op configuration and how much sense it makes in relation to this button. So as I now press this button, it allows me to say, okay, so in this corner up here I want to have the top camera. In this corner down here I want to have my computer signal, and in this corner I want to have my front camera, and so forth.